everybody, and welcome back to my channel. It has been a little while since I have done a full update on my cat gecko babies and the eggs and just the overall breeding project of my Malaysian cat geckos. I was thinking about it recently and I came to the conclusion that I want to be doing more frequent updates on my Malaysian cat gecko breeding project because personally I'm having so much fun with it and I'm learning so much, and I think that it would be really great to share with everyone. So I kind of want to turn my cat gecko breeding project into a bit of a series on my channel. So if you would all enjoy more frequent cat gecko videos and updates and just updates on my breeding projects and stuff, definitely let me know in the comments down below, because if that's something you guys want, it is something that I would love to do. So let me know how you feel. So with that said, I have quite a few updates for you on the geckos, the eggs, and my future geckos to come. So with all that said, we are going to go ahead and just get started with this update video. Okay, so the lighting here is really garbage, but on this shelf behind me right here is where I have all 4 of my baby Malaysian cat geckos. So I guess I have a little bit of good news today and a little bit of bad news, but thankfully I think that the good news far outweighs the bad news. So the good news is that all of my cat geckos are doing fantastic. My adults are doing great and the babies are also just doing wonderful. The bad news is that I unfortunately lost some of my cat gecko eggs. So a couple months ago, my gecko Sage laid a fertile clutch of eggs. After finding the eggs, I collected them and I put them into their little incubation setup, and from there on out I incubated them for about 2.5 months before I just knew that they weren't going to go anywhere. And I will be completely honest here, I do think that losing these 2 eggs was completely my fault. So obviously I wouldn't want that to happen. However, this is my first time really breeding reptiles, let alone cat geckos. So with that, I am inevitably going to have some ups and downs and some learning curves, and this was definitely one of them. So I think the main issue here was the eggs dehydrated basically right away, and I honestly don't know if they ever really bounced back from that. When Sage laid these eggs, she was still in her quarantine setup at the time, so she was on paper towel substrate, but I gave her a lay box because I had suspicions that she was still going to lay some eggs, and I was right, she did lay eggs. And she did go ahead and use her lay box. However, I think that is honestly where the first mistake started, because the lay bin that I gave her was not humid enough for eggs. I unfortunately wasn't keeping it humid enough. I thought that it was fine, but it just wasn't, and when I found the eggs in that lay box, it was obvious that they were already dehydrated. So the reason why I knew the eggs were dehydrated was because they had a little indent in them, which happens to reptile eggs when they get dehydrated. So I tried my best to rehydrate these eggs, and I thought that I did it successfully because the eggs plumped back up, and when I candled the eggs, they were glowing red. However, very soon after that, one of the eggs started growing a decent amount of mold on it, and a few weeks later the other egg followed with a bunch of mold. And even though the eggs had mold, they still looked alright, and I was candling them and they were still looking to be fertile. So even with the mold, I kept them and I kept incubating them, hoping that, maybe they'll be okay. But as the time went on, the eggs just got worse and worse and worse, and it became obvious to me that there was nothing alive in these eggs. So unfortunately I did lose 1 clutch of eggs, but thankfully I was able to learn from that experience, and hopefully I won't have that issue again with my cat geckos. So while that is a little bit of bad news, like I said earlier, I really think that the good news definitely outweighs it, because all of my geckos are doing wonderful, my adults are doing great, even my egg-laying females are doing fantastic, and all the babies are doing really well also. So speaking of the babies, earlier today I went out and I bought some new coconut hides for their enclosures. So the baby cat geckos are going to be getting a slight enclosure makeover, and while we're doing that, I'm also going to take the geckos out, get an updated weight on them, and see if I am able to sex the geckos. So without further ado, let's go ahead and check out the baby cat geckos. So in front of me right here, I have all 4 of my baby cat geckos, and I also have my scale and my little loop here that I'm hoping to use to be able to sex them, or at least get a better idea of what their sex might be. And I also picked up a few of these coconut hides tonight, so I'm going to be adding those into the gecko's enclosure, and one of the enclosures will also get this plant. So we're gonna go ahead and start with this gecko right here, which is currently the biggest out of all of them. Hello, little gecko. Hello. There she is, just all curled up on this piece of cork. They're so cute when they sleep. Oh my goodness, I love it. I love it so much. Alright, so here is the first baby. As you guys can probably tell, they have grown quite a bit. You know, obviously this one here is still quite small, but compared to the size they were when I first got them, when they first hatched out, they have definitely put on quite a bit of size. Alright, so let's find out how much this little one weighs. 3.8 grams. Good job, little gecko. So it is still quite hard for me to tell with them being as small as they are, but I took a closer look at this one from the underside with my loop, and I suspect that this one here is a female. Alright, now we're going to add a coconut hide into this enclosure here. I'm going to put it right there in the corner. And I think that I'm also going to put this plant inside of this enclosure as well. I think that this enclosure here would probably benefit the most from another plant, so that's where this one is going to go. Alright, so here's a look at the enclosure now that it has been redecorated a little bit. So we have the coconut hide right there with some cork bark and this bark leaning up against it. I have the plants over here with a couple branches throughout, and then we have the little water dish right down there. So let's go ahead and put our gecko in here and let them enjoy their new setup. I find this so interesting because these 2 cat geckos right here are clutch mates. So these ones are, you know, complete siblings, but their colors and patterns are both really different. So you can very obviously see that this gecko right here is a lot lighter in color than this one is right here, and I don't know, I just find that so interesting. And then if you look at the tails of them, they're also both like completely different. So this one here has some white spotting on it, but this guy has no white on his tail at all. So I don't know, I just find these 2 geckos really cool, and it's really interesting to me that they're clutch mates. So I'm certainly going to be keeping both of these geckos, and I'm really curious to see how they continue to develop as they get older. Alright, so we got our second baby cat gecko out, so now we're going to go ahead and weigh this one, and also see if I can take a look and get any idea of what the sex of this one might be. And this one here is 3.4 grams. So this little one right here is a little bit behind in growth compared to this one right here. However, I did expect that. So when I first got these 2 babies, this one right here was a bit underweight when I got it, and he wasn't eating for the first week or so that I had him, so I was a little bit worried, but thankfully they started eating just fine and has put on quite a bit of weight since then, so I am not worried at all. So after taking a quick look at this little guy right here with my loop, I have my suspicions that this one is going to be a male. So I went ahead and added the new coconut hide into this little guy's enclosure right here. So we're gonna go ahead and put him back and let him explore, do his cat gecko things. Honestly, one of the most shocking things I have learned about cat geckos since keeping them is that their poops are so much larger than you think they should be. Such a small gecko, plus with such a big, long poop. And like, it's not just the babies. The adults are even worse. The adult cat geckos have like bearded dragon size poop. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but like, it is way bigger than I ever expected it to be. And here we have baby number 3. So as you can see, this one here is quite a bit smaller than the previous 2 that you guys just saw. And you know, that would add up because these babies were born a few months after the first one, so it makes sense that they're quite a bit smaller. So with that said, let's go ahead and find out how much this little gecko here weighs. So this little one right here weighs 2.2 grams, so still quite tiny, but I will also say that another thing I have learned is that these guys as babies grow quite slow. So with this one being even tinier than the last 2 geckos, getting a good idea of the sex at this size is really difficult, but if I had to take a guess, I would go with female for this one. And a fresh new coconut hide for you. If you want to get off my finger. Okay, there you go. And last but not least, we have our 4th gecko here. So let's go ahead and find out the weight of this little one. So this little guy, just like his clutch mate, is weighing in at a whole 2.4 grams. Wow. Wow, what a big gecko. Okay, so I just took a look at this one through my loop, and this one I am honestly pretty confident that it's a female, and after taking a look at this one, which I think is a female, I'm pretty sure that the one that I just sexed, gecko number 3, might actually be a male, because there were definitely some more noticeable looking spots on that guy, especially when you compare it to this one right here. So yeah, I don't know, like I said, they're still really tiny and I'm not super experienced when it comes to sexing geckos, but if I had to take a guess now, I'm going to guess that this one right here is a female, this one right here is a male, this one right here is another male, and this one right here is a female. So that is my guesses for today, but who knows what I will think when they get a little bit bigger. Alright, and now let's put our last little baby cat gecko back home for the night. Go have fun, go check out your new coconut hide. Goodbye. Oh. Goodbye. So now that all of the baby cat geckos have been weighed and possibly sexed, let's talk about eggs again. I know we talked about eggs earlier, but I have some more egg updates for you. So despite losing that one clutch of eggs a couple weeks ago, I still have 4 cat gecko eggs currently incubating. So the eggs that I lost came from Sage, who is the mother of my current 4 babies. But now the 4 eggs that I currently have incubating have come from Sadie, who is my other female. So about 2.5 months ago now, Sadie laid her first clutch of fertile eggs with me, and I was so excited to find these guys. It was really just such an exciting moment because these were the first eggs that I had truly produced myself. I mean, I didn't lay the eggs, Sadie did, but I was the one who bred them. So thankfully these eggs have really good news and they are doing fantastic. Like I said, they have been incubating for about 2.5 months now. Typically cat gecko eggs incubate around 4 or 5 months, so I'm hoping that a couple months from now we will have 2 more baby cat geckos from Sadie. And then just a couple weeks ago at the beginning of August, Sadie laid her second clutch of eggs. Now unfortunately I'm not too sure about these eggs. I have been candling them since they were laid and I am just unfortunately not really seeing any promising signs of life in these eggs. The eggs look really great, they're holding up their shape and stuff, they haven't started molding or anything, but when I candle them I'm not really seeing a whole lot. So these eggs, I don't know, they really could go either way. They might end up hatching, but they might end up just being duds. I'm not really sure, but fingers crossed that they are good eggs and that we will have some baby cat geckos emerge from them. But if we don't, that's life and that's okay. So I don't expect that Sage is going to lay any more eggs, but I do suspect that Sadie will lay some more. Like I mentioned, she has laid 2 clutches of eggs this year, and typically cat geckos will lay 3 or 4 clutches, totaling 6 or 8 eggs. So hopefully we're going to have a few more eggs from Sadie, and hopefully those ones will all be fertile and do well. And now I guess my last cat gecko update that I have is that in September I am going to be welcoming home some more cat geckos. I think I mentioned this on my channel already, but I'm sure not everyone saw that update or video, so I'm saying it again. In September I'm going to be welcoming home some more cat geckos, and these guys are actually going to be a completely different species than what I have right now. The geckos that I have right now are A. felinus, and the new ones that I'm going to be welcoming home are A. dorsalis. So I am just truly so excited to get to expand on this project and keep working on it, and I really hope that one day in the near future I will be able to have many captive bred babies that can make wonderful pets for people. That is truly what I am just looking forward to the most here. So like I mentioned earlier, I am having such an incredible time working with this species, and I would absolutely love to document that more here on YouTube. So if you're interested in seeing more cat gecko content, please let me know, because I would love to turn this into like a mini series on my channel. I think that that would be super awesome. So if you did enjoy this video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. It really helps me out and it costs you nothing. And also be sure to subscribe to my channel if you aren't already. I am getting so close to hitting my goal of 100,000 subscribers, and it would mean the absolute world to me if you helped me get there. So feel free to subscribe if that is something you want to do. Also be sure to check out all of my social media. Everything will be down in the description below, but it is basically all just EmmaSam99 on everything, so feel free to check those out if you would like. I would love to have you over there, so do that if you want. So with all this said and done, I am going to go ahead and end the video here. Thank you all so much for watching. I do truly appreciate it, and I will see you all in my next video.